Welcome to Afra's Artifacts, where we do some archaeology of our own and dig into the queer side of Star Wars. I'm your host, Alia Morgaine, and it's so great to have you here. Well, over the next 3 weeks, so this week, next week, and the following week, we're going to be talking about a short story in the From a Certain Point of View Empire Strikes Back edition called The Backup Plan by Anne Toole. In this story, there are 3 queer characters, so each week will be about a different character, and the character next week is connected to the character I'm talking about this week. So, this story takes place a couple days after Lando has left Cloud City, right when the Imperials have taken over. They're starting to round up miners and ship them off elsewhere. So things are looking really bad in Cloud City. This does take place in Cloud City, and the character we're talking about today is Lieutenant Ela Radodan, who is an Imperial lieutenant, an Imperial officer, and she is very clearly described, although the descriptions are more how she presents herself to her superior officer, Commander Kilos, how she appears to other Imperials. So not quite who she really is, and we'll be getting into that in next week's video. So she thinks of everyone as fools. She didn't have time or interest in learning his name. He was just the latest in a long line of interchangeable, clean-shaven faces. Faces that Commander Kilos routinely dismissed for their incompetence. That Ela often made sure Kilos did so was lost on him, which made Kilos fool number 1, she supposed. So, she feels like she has a leg up on everybody when it comes to knowing what in the heck is going on around them. She sees everyone around her as fools, as not being that swift. So she, along with that, comes across as being very intense and threatening and a little scary, a little terrifying. So in regards to her expression, her overall demeanor, it says she had been told that her natural expression was one of cold disdain. Ella's expression was always inscrutable. A severe bun held her dark hair back under her cap. Her cold expression did not falter as she adjusted her stance, put her hands behind her back, and stared down. So you can feel the intensity there. So there is a little bit that happens that reveals that she's not quite that way, that's not really who she is. And to start it off, and I'm not going to get into all of this in this video. We're going to talk more about it next week. So what the Betrayal is talking about, we'll talk about that later. But it says, the cool darkness, the blinking control lights, and the soft hum of the ship normally calmed her nerves. But she could feel Kilos' eyes on her, monitoring her, as he had been since the beginning, apparently. She guessed she was fool number 1 all along. So it turns out Kilos knows a little bit more than Ela expected him to. And that's bad. But things turn out pretty darn good in the end, as we'll discuss next week. So Kilos, a little bit before this, so there are mining guild operatives that appear. They're really people in disguise, including the character we're talking about next week. And they're firing blasters at the Imperials, going after them. And the narrative says, she looked at the jacket on the ground. She had no choice. And then she says, it is possible it was a ruse. So talk about that next week. So then Kilos is talking to Ela, and it says in the narrative, finally he shared his verdict. Betrayal demonstrates character. It suits you. Okay, that betrayal, again, we'll talk about next week. Ela returned his look with a cold disdain that she felt to the depths of her soul. I don't feel like she's as Imperial as she likes to appear. I think there's a lot more to her than just a surface level Imperial officer who thinks they're better than everybody else. I think she's a lot deeper than all of that. She's very complicated, and we'll find out more about that later. But to Kilos, she has just betrayed someone, and he likes that because he's a staunch Imperial, and he's like, that's the way you have to do things. And so, comment down below on what you think about this character, Ela Radodan. If you've read the story, I'd love to know your thoughts on this character and the whole situation behind what's going on in the story. Yeah, and what's it like to, how do you feel about having this lesbian character? Oh, did I even say that? I'm so sorry. She is a lesbian, which is really, really exciting. And so we'll talk more about that next week. So yeah, comment on what you think about this lesbian character who's very intense and scary and demanding and threatening, and all of that, but the fact that she's much, much, much more complicated underneath. So remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter at Alia Morgaine, and peruse my blog at thestarsreview.blogspot.com. May the Force be with you.